When my daughter-in-law told me I was no longer part of the family, I did not cry. I smiled. Not because it did not hurt, but because I did not want to give her the satisfaction of seeing my pain. That smile stayed on my face until I closed my bedroom door that night, and the silence finally spoke louder than any words. I am a mother of one son. I raised him alone after his father passed away when he was very young. We grew up together in a small home, sharing simple meals, simple dreams, and quiet evenings. He was not just my son, he was my whole world. I worked long hours, sometimes 2 jobs, to make sure he never felt the emptiness I felt. I cooked his favorite food even when I was tired. I waited up late when he studied. I told myself that one day, when he grew up, we would finally rest. When my son told me he was getting married, my heart felt 2 things at once: happiness and fear. I was happy he found someone to love, but I was afraid of losing my place in his life. His wife seemed polite at first. She smiled, spoke softly, and called me Mom. I believed we would become a family, not strangers under one roof. I was wrong. The changes were small at first. My place at the dinner table moved. My cooking was replaced by hers. My suggestions were met with silence. If I spoke, she looked uncomfortable. If I stayed quiet, she acted annoyed. I began to feel like a guest in my own home. One evening, I asked my son, gently, "Did I do something wrong?" He avoided my eyes and said, "No, Mom, everything is fine." But everything was not fine. Slowly, I was pushed into the background. Family decisions were made without me. My son no longer asked my opinion. He no longer noticed when I stayed silent. His wife started correcting me in front of others. Small things: the way I folded clothes, the way I spoke, the way I existed. I told myself to be patient. I told myself love requires sacrifice. I told myself this was the price of being a mother. One afternoon, while my son was at work, she came into my room. She stood near the door, arms crossed, eyes calm but cold. She said, "I think it's time you understand something." I looked at her, waiting. She continued, "This is my family now. You don't belong here anymore." Her words were quiet, but they cut deeply. She did not shout, she did not insult me, she simply erased me. I smiled, I nodded, and I said nothing. That night, I packed my bags slowly. Not because I was told to leave, but because I finally understood my place. I folded my clothes the same way I always had. I touched the walls that once heard my son's laughter. When my son came home, he saw the bags. He asked, "Where are you going?" I said softly, "Somewhere I am not a burden." He stood there, silent, and silence answered everything. I moved into a small rented room. It was quiet, no arguments, no tension, just me and my thoughts. The first few nights were the hardest. I missed the sound of my son walking in. I missed cooking for someone else. I missed being needed. But slowly, something changed. I began sleeping peacefully. I began breathing freely. I began remembering who I was before I became invisible. Weeks passed. My son called a few times. His voice sounded unsure, distant, guilty. He said, "Mom, why didn't you fight? Why didn't you say anything?" I replied, "Because sometimes silence is the loudest truth." He did not answer. I do not hate my daughter-in-law. I do not blame my son. Life changes people, and love sometimes makes us blind. But I learned something important. Being a mother does not mean disappearing. Loving someone does not mean accepting disrespect. Now I wake up every morning with peace instead of pain. I make tea for myself, I sit by the window, and I remind myself that my worth does not depend on anyone's permission. If you are listening to this and feel invisible in your own life, remember this: you matter, even in silence, especially in silence.